What if a handful of men, armed with little more than explosives and skis, slipped into a heavily guarded fortress on a frozen cliff and crippled a program that could have given one side the ultimate weapon without firing a single shot? On the night of February 27th to 28th, just after midnight, 9 Norwegian commandos crept down a near vertical gorge in sub-zero darkness, scaled a railway line guarded by machine guns, cut through a fence, and entered the Vemork hydroelectric plant in Telemark, Norway. Inside, they planted charges on the heavy water production cells, the heart of Europe's only large-scale source of deuterium oxide, a substance vital for moderating nuclear chain reactions. The explosions shattered the equipment, destroyed stockpiles, and set back production by months, all while the guards remained unaware until the blasts echoed across the valley. This single night's work stands out because it targeted a facility tied directly to atomic research. Heavy water slows neutrons, enabling controlled fission in reactors using natural uranium. Germany's chosen path for potential nuclear weapons or reactors. The Vemork plant, perched high above the Rjukan Gorge, produced most of the world's supply. By destroying it, the sabotage removed a critical bottleneck. The mission succeeded, where a prior Allied glider-borne attempt had failed catastrophically, with all participants killed or executed. No lives were lost in this raid. No alarms sounded during the infiltration. The commandos escaped into a blizzard, skiing hundreds of kilometers to safety. The shock lies in the precision and audacity. These men trained in Britain, but Norwegian-born, faced minus 30 degrees Celsius temperatures, deep snow, and German patrols. They relied on insider intelligence from plant workers, homemade explosives, and sheer endurance. Leader Joachim Rumberg later recalled the tension. "We knew if we failed, the consequences could be unimaginable. Yet they moved silently, set timers, and withdrew before the charges detonated at around 0:45 a.m. on February 28th. The plant's high concentration cells holding hundreds of liters of heavy water were ruined. Production halted, stockpiles evaporated or spilled. This act delayed German atomic efforts at a pivotal moment when scientists like Werner Heisenberg pursued reactor development. It highlighted how covert operations could alter strategic balances without massive battles. The commando's success became legendary, inspiring films like The Heroes of Telemark. Though dramatized, in reality, it was a quiet, calculated strikeman against machinery, resolved against odds in the frozen heart of occupied territory. The sabotage at Vemork did not occur in isolation. It stemmed from Germany's occupation of Norway in April 1940 and the strategic value of the Norsk hydro plant at Vemork. Built in the 1930s for fertilizer production via electrolysis, the facility used vast hydroelectric power from the Rjukan waterfall to separate deuterium from ordinary water, yielding heavy water as a byproduct. By 1941, German physicists recognized its potential as a moderator for uranium-based reactors. A path different from the graphite-moderated approach pursued elsewhere. Intelligence reached Allied scientists early. Norwegian physicist Leif Tronstad, who helped design Vemork, fled to Britain in 1941 and alerted authorities. Reports confirmed German interest. Shipments of heavy water increased, guarded by Wehrmacht troops. The Allies, fearing a reactor leading to plutonium production for bombs, prioritized disruption. Britain's Special Operations Executive so planned sabotaged, training Norwegian exiles in Scotland's rugged terrain for Arctic survival, demolitions, and silent infiltration. The first attempt, Operation Grouse, October 1942, placed 4 Norwegians on the Hardanger Plateau as an advance team. They endured months in hiding, surviving blizzards and scarcity. A follow-up, Operation Freshman, November 1942, involved British engineers and Horsa gliders towed by helicopters. Both gliders crashed in mountains. Survivors were captured and executed under Hitler's commando order. The setback was devastating, but the Grouse team, renamed Swallow, remained undetected. By early 1943, urgency grew. German heavy water stockpiles accumulated. Reactor experiments advanced, so opted for a smaller, all-Norwegian team. Operation Gunnicide formed. 6 commandos, parachuted February 16, 1943, to Linquiswa. They endured storms, skied to rendezvous, and planned meticulously. Insider maps from Plantangier, Canute, Hawklid, and others detailed layouts, guard shifts, and weak points. Gorgeside, cable duct. Big shears. The event mattered profoundly. Vemork was the sole major heavy water source under Axis control. Disrupting it forced Germany to rely on limited stocks or slower alternatives. Allied scientists, working on their own projects, gained breathing room. The raid success achieved with 0 casualties on either side demonstrated precision sabotage's power. It avoided large-scale bombing, which risked civilian workers and incomplete destruction. The commandos endurance on the plateau, skiing escape routes, an evasion of hunts underscored human limits pushed to extremes. Post-raid, Germany rebuilt, but further actions including Allied bombings in November 1943 and Eferia sinking in 1944 ensured permanent disruption. The cumulative effect delayed any viable German reactor program. Vemork's story reveals how intelligence, local knowledge, and daring individuals intersected with global stakes in a remote Norwegian valley. February 16, 1943-6. Norwegian commandos parachuted from a Halifax bomber into a blinding snowstorm on the Hardanger Plateau. Winds scattered containers. The men spent days recovering gear. They skied to a cabin, then linked with the 4-man Swallow team waiting since October. Together, 11 men led by Joachim Rumbergay finalized plans using detailed blueprints smuggled from Vemork workers. February 27th, evening, the team set out on skis, carrying Colt .45 pistols, Thompson submachine guns, plastic explosives, timers, and bolt cutters. Temperatures plunged to 30 grados bajo cero. Wind. Old. They traversed frozen lakes and gorges, reaching the ravine below Vemork. Around midnight, guards patrolled the bridge and gates. Searchlights swept the perimeter. The plant sat atop a sheer cliff, accessible only by road or rail, both heavily watched. The commandos descended the gorge wall using ropes, boots crunching on ice. At the base, they climbed a ladder to the railway line, crawled under a guard post, and cut through a chain-link fence with bolt cutters. No alarm sounded. They entered via a narrow cable duct previously scouted as unguarded, emerging inside the compound near the basement level. Inside, corridors echoed with machinery hum. Hermangod's about 50 total were in barracks or at posts. Night shift workers operated electrolysis cells. The team split. Rundberg and 4 others headed to the heavy water room on the 2nd floor. Others secured exits and covered retreat. They moved silently in white camouflage, weapons ready but unfired. Twists emerged quickly. A Norwegian worker spotted them, but, recognizing resistance contacts, stayed silent and unlocked doors. In the heavy water room, high concentration cells bubbling with water, the men placed shaped charges on key pipes and tanks. Explosives. British plied plastic with pencil fuses set for short delays. Rundberg later said, "We worked fast. No words needed. Charges set on 18 cells. Time is late." As they withdrew, a guard appeared in a corridor. The team froze, passed without noticing. They exited through the same duct, recrossed the fence, and descended the gorge. At 0:45 a.m. on February 28th, explosions rocked the plant. Cells shattered. Heavy water flooded floors. Production halted instantly. Over 500 liters destroyed or contaminated. Chaos followed. Alarmes blared. Germans searched, but found no intruders. The commandos skied away into the storm, covering tracks. They split. Most headed west across the plateau toward Sweden, enduring blizzards and German patrols. One group reached Sweden after 400 kilometers. Others hid or escaped separately. No commandos were captured in the immediate aftermath. Heroics shown in endurance. Skiing days without sleep. Navigating whiteouts. Rationing food. Losses. None on the raid itself, though earlier freshman operation claimed many lives. Technology. Sten guns for close work. Unused. Colt pistols. Plastic explosives with chemical delay fuses. Weapons stayed holstered. Success relied on stealth, not combat. The plant's destruction was total for heavy water production. Germans rebuilt, but momentum lost. The commandos escaped through hunts and avalanches, completed the mission's triumph. The climax peaked in the heavy water room itself, just before detonation. Rundberg and his demolition team worked under dim lights, attaching charges to the tall electrolysis cells, each containing precious concentrated heavy water. Hands numb from cold, they wired plastic explosives precisely around inlet pipes, on high concentration tanks holding the most enriched pencil fuses. Chemical delay devices were set for 2-minute burns. The room hummed with pumps. Workers nearby continued shifts, unaware. One fuse hissed to life. The team retreated swiftly, hearts pounding. They passed a Norwegian engineer who nodded silently, complicity sealed. Exiting via the duct, they re-entered the gorge, ropes taut against ice. As they reached the railway line, the first muffled blast echoed, followed by a series of sharp detonations. Glass shattered. Metal groaned. Water cascaded. Alarms wailed across the valley. Guards rushed out, rifles ready, but saw only smoke billowing from the building. The commandos melted into darkness, skiing uphill into the storm. Pursuit began immediately. German dogs, patrols, spotlights but snow-covered tracks. The team split to evade capture. Rundberg led a group south, others north. They navigated by compass in whiteouts, sleeping in snow holes, rationing chocolate and biscuits. One man suffered frostbite, but pressed on. German searches intensified. Roadblocks appeared, yet the plateau's vastness and weather favored the fugitives. Resolution unfolded over weeks. By early March, most reached neutral Sweden after grueling trek some 400 kilometers on skis. Rundberg crossed last, evading patrols. All survived the escape. Back in Britain, Seoul received confirmation. Production ceased. Stockpiles ruined. German recovery took months. New equipment needed. Expertise scarce. Further disruptions followed. RAF bombings November 1943 destroyed remaining facilities. In 1944, ferry sabotage sank final transport. The mission's success stemmed from meticulous preparation, local intelligence, and flawless execution. No shots fired, no guards harmed during infiltration. Casualties: 0 on the night. The heavy water program collapsed. Germany shifted focus, but delays proved fatal to ambitions. The lesson: small determined teams, using stealth and knowledge, could neutralize massive threats. It showed sabotage's strategic value, disrupting supply chains without mass destruction. The commando's actions bought time for Allied programs, highlighting intelligence and human resolve's power against technological pursuits. No grand victory parade followed. The men returned quietly, their deed etched in secrecy until post-war revelations, reflecting on the night of February 27th to 28th, 1943. The Vemork sabotage reveals war's intricate layers where remote valleys held global consequences. A small group, facing extreme cold and guarded might, chose precision over force, destroying capability without bloodshed. Their success delayed a dangerous path, sparing potential devastation. The commandos endured skiing through blizzards, evading hunters embodies quiet determination. No glory sought, duty drove them. The event underscores how local knowledge and insider aid can tip balances in vast conflicts. It reminds that technology's advance demands ethical vigilance. Unchecked pursuits risk catastrophe. Today, Vemork stands as a museum, preserving the story of human choice amid extremes. The raid teaches that resolve, planning, and conscience can counter overwhelming odds. In remembering, we honor not triumph alone, but the courage to act when stakes are highest, preserving a fragile peace. We have written the sources from which we got this story in the description of this video. And we have always been and will be supporters of the oppressed, regardless of their color, race, or country. This world and its creator are also with the oppressed. Like if this World War II sabotage story gripped you. Comment your thoughts what surprises you most about Operation Gunocide. Subscribe for more forgotten World War II missions and untold heroism. See you in the next WWII story.